Today we're going to be talking about Australia's Alcatraz, Peat Island. Now, if you've heard this place before, you know we're in for a treat. So make sure you stick around until the end. Let's get straight into it. So here's a quick and dirty overview for those who don't know. Peat Island is a small island that's situated in the middle of the Hawkesbury River, just across from Brooklyn, New South Wales, and is a part of the whole Moonee suburb. Originally, it was called Rabbit Island due to the abundance of rabbits that were on the island. It was renamed Peat Island in 1936 due to its proximity to Peat's Ferry, which was a ferry that took people across from Moonee to Kangaroo Point. In the 1890s, the government wanted an asylum for the inebriated, so they could treat them in isolation, and away from the general populace and other prison centres. Relevant legislation was passed in 1900, and a council member selected Peat Island as well as an adjacent island known as Milson Island for the whole asylum thing. And in 1902, construction began and Peat Island was levelled and cleared so they could start building things on the island. Several buildings were constructed, including one that's a 2-story office that is still standing to this day, which is nuts. The construction was completed then in 1905. But as with all things, the government started losing interest in it, and in 1907, the government just completely lost interest in the whole inebriated asylum kind of thing. And so in 1908, they handed it over to the lunacy department, which it was then transformed into a proper asylum. Now here's where things start to go downhill. In 1911, there were 20 patients admitted. It was initially only used and housed male occupants. The reason why that was is because the staff and the residents of the island were used in manual labour. There is a connecting causeway from the mainland to the island, and that took 10 years, and they helped build that, and that's still there today. That's the main access to get in there today. And that was completed in 1957. Over the next few decades, the island started to grow outwards, and it eventually bled onto the mainland, which it housed chapels and other facilities like that. While this place is incredibly beautiful and has an amazing view and is incredibly scenic, it was hell for the inmates and the people that were on the island. There is upwards of 300 unexplained deaths and drownings and everything like that. And the kicker is, they're all buried in unmarked graves. According to some reports, Ward 4 was the absolute worst, from it being padlocked and people cramped in there. It's apparently where the most brutal treatment took place. So from like torture to drownings, like it was all happening in here. One of the first incidents recorded, which was in 1924, an inmate by the name of William Pfingst. Yeah, Pfingst, that's a weird last name. He admitted to killing another inmate by beating him to death, tying him up, putting a bag over his head, and drowning him. And there was another case of a boy around 8 years old who was found floating off the coast after being kept in a cage as punishment. And there was another boy in the 1950s that was found asphyxiated in a linen bin made of iron after only being there for 5 months. According to a journalist at the time, this place was described as being the hospital for forgotten children. And to make things even worse, a child was put there for a year, and by the time that he got out, he had no fingernails. They were pulled off. How? Like, what? How do you, like... I've got no words for it. During the 80s, there were still about 160 patients left at this facility, and some had been there for 50 years. That would have been like the 1930s or something like that. That's an insane amount of time to be kept in just this one place. But in 1983, after the mental health services did a report on this place, they all agreed that it was to be shut down over time and residents integrated into society as they saw fit. So over the next 27 years, there was a lot of stuff put forth, and all the plans that were put forward all fell short, and it did end up closing. It shut down in October of 2010. Now, there are still caretakers on the island to make sure nothing bad, and security is still there so people don't break in and all that kind of stuff, but it's been generally abandoned since October 2010. So around December 2010-ish, rumors began surfacing that the government was going to start using the island again as a detention center for asylum seekers, people who've come over here illegally and all that kind of stuff. But that was quickly denied and shut down, and so those rumors were false. But since then, it's been completely boarded up. Like I said, there's still caretakers and security on the island to make sure nothing goes bad, people aren't breaking in, destroying things and all that kind of stuff, but it's all pretty much abandoned now. I've had friends who have gotten onto the island and explored it and have said that it's absolutely amazing, but there's only about one building you could get into. Now, I would love to go here, and I actually am thinking about getting in contact with the caretakers and seeing about setting up an interview, doing a whole cinematic, documentary or something like that along the lines, but just something that tells their side of the story and why they feel like they still want to be there. But I just want to explore this place. It looks absolutely nuts. But I got a question for you. Would you do an overnight here? Let me know down below. Now, we may be done here, but that does not mean that the adventure is over. If you did enjoy today's video, like that smash button. Leave a comment down below of what you thought, and if you would like to see more of this stuff. I feel like I should do more of this sort of content. But as always, click right here for my last adventure, or click right here for an adventure YouTube recommends. Click on my face to subscribe, and I will see you guys over there.